I woke up because something warm and dry pressed softly against my forehead, the kind of gentle kiss that only someone who loved you would leave in the dark. And for one calm, stupid second, I smiled because I thought my father had done what he used to do when I was little. Then I opened my eyes and remembered my father had been dead for 11 months, and I was 22 years old, living alone in a second floor apartment with the front door dead bolted and every window locked. I did not move at first. I just lay there in the blue gray dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling the exact place on my skin where those lips had touched me, still warm somehow, still real, while every part of my body turned cold. My bedroom was quiet except for the hum of the old box fan near the dresser and the distant sound of a train somewhere beyond the road, behind my building. Nothing looked wrong. My door was half closed, the hallway beyond it empty. My phone was charging on the nightstand. My blanket was wrapped around my legs, the same way it always was when I slept alone. But I knew what I had felt. It was not a dream. It was not the brush of fabric or a half-sleep hallucination. It had been a kiss, slow and familiar, with that same pause after it, like the person giving it stood there for a second just looking at me. My father used to do that every night before he left for late shifts at the power plant. He would smooth my hair, kiss my forehead, and whisper, "Sleep safe, bug." He was the only person who ever called me that. I sat up so fast my lower back hit the headboard, and I turned on the lamp with shaking fingers. The room flooded with weak yellow light, empty, completely empty. I checked the closet, under the bed, the bathroom, even the front door chain, even though I knew how insane that looked. Everything was locked. No sign of anyone. No sound. I told myself it was grief, that maybe my brain had started doing cruel little tricks now that the anniversary of his death was close. But when I looked in the bathroom mirror, there was a faint damp mark in the center of my forehead, shaped almost like lips. I scrubbed it off so hard my skin turned red. The next morning, I barely got through my shift at the bookstore. I kept touching my forehead and hearing his voice in my memory, rich and tired and warm, the voice I had not allowed myself to listen to since the funeral because the guilt attached to it was too heavy. My father died in a house fire while trying to go back in for a woman in the upstairs unit. That was the story everyone praised him for. Brave, selfless, a hero. Only I knew the part that mattered to me. He had called me 3 times before that fire, and I had ignored every call because we had fought that week and I was tired of him asking why I kept spending nights at my boyfriend's place instead of finishing school applications. My last message to him was a cold text that said, "Stop treating me like a child." He died that same night. I never heard his voice again, and I had been carrying that unfinished anger like a wound under my clothes ever since. That evening, I almost stayed with my friend Tasha, but shame made me act normal. So I went home and told myself I was not a little girl, that apartments make noises, that grief makes patterns out of nothing. I made tea, left the TV on low, and kept all the lights burning until nearly 2 in the morning. At some point, exhaustion won. I fell asleep with the lamp still on. I woke again at 3:11 a.m. because someone was sitting on the edge of my bed. I did not need to see it first. I felt the weight sink, the mattress near my knees, slow and careful, exactly the way a person sits when they are trying not to wake you. My eyes opened to the same yellow lamplight, and there, at the foot of the bed, was a man in my father's old brown work jacket. His back was to me. The fabric across the shoulders was blackened, blistered in places, and the smell coming from him was not smoke from a fireplace or a cigarette. It was wet ash, burnt wiring, and something sweet and ruined underneath it, like flesh that had stayed too long in heat. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. He tilted his head slightly, as if he had heard me think his name, and then he spoke in my father's voice, low and soft. "You always slept with one foot out of the blanket." Tears flooded my eyes before I could stop them. "Dad," I whispered. He turned slowly. The left side of his face was my father's, tired and familiar, and full of that same sad kindness I had spent a year missing. The right side was charred down to the jaw, skin split and peeled back, one eyelid gone, the eye underneath fixed on me like something preserved by fire instead of destroyed by it. I started sobbing. I hated myself for still wanting him to be real. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm so sorry," I didn't answer. He stared at me for a long time, and when he spoke again, his mouth moved unevenly. I didn't call to ask for help. I stopped breathing. He lifted one burned hand and touched the blanket near my ankle. Not me, just the blanket, like he was afraid of what his fingers would do to skin. "I called because I was outside your building," he said. "I saw a man follow you in." My blood turned to ice. The room felt suddenly smaller, tighter, as if the walls had leaned in. "What?" I whispered. My father looked toward the bedroom door. It was still half closed. The hallway beyond it was dark. "I came to warn you then," he said. Now I came too late. Something moved softly outside the room. Not a creak, not settling pipes, a careful shift of weight on old floorboards. My father stood up sofa. The mattress snapped back into place. The air in the room dropped cold despite the burned smell coming off him. "Under the bed," he said. It was the first time all night. His voice sounded urgent, alive, like the father who used to drag me away from traffic with one hard pull of his hand. I slid off the mattress and dropped to the floor without thinking. From the darkness under the bed, I could see only my father's shoes near the doorway. One scuffed work boot, the leather curled from heat, and the slice of hallway beyond him. Then another pair of feet stopped outside my room. Bare feet. A man's feet. Pale, dirty, motionless. My father's voice changed when he spoke to whatever stood there. It became rough, burned, furious. "She's asleep," he said. The thing in the hall laughed softly. It was a human laugh, low and embarrassed, like someone caught in the wrong place. "I know," a man whispered. "That's the best time to kiss her." I bit my fist to stop myself from making a sound. The room went silent for one long, impossible second. Then I saw my father take one step into the doorway, and every bulb in the apartment exploded at once. The scream that followed did not sound human. It sounded like something being dragged backward through fire. I stayed under the bed until the first light of dawn slid gray across the floor. When I finally crawled out, the apartment was empty, the front door still locked, the windows still shut. The police found nothing except a partial muddy footprint in my hallway and a print from a man's hand on the outside of my bedroom door. I moved out 2 days later, but the worst part came a week after that when the fire report was finally released, and I forced myself to read the details I had avoided for nearly a year. My father had not died trying to save the woman upstairs. He died in the hallway outside my old bedroom at my parents' house, where investigators found signs that someone had broken in before the fire started. He had called me 3 times because he thought the man was coming for me next. And now, on some nights when I wake just before dawn, I still feel that soft kiss on my forehead, followed by my father's voice near my ear, burnt and tired, and trying so hard to sound gentle as he whispers the same thing too late every time. "Sleep safe, bug. He found you again."